This video is sponsored by Blue Apron. Hey Wisecrack, Jared here. Today we're talking about the show that launched 1,000 Halloween costumes, Stranger Things. Pretty much every 20-something with a borrowed Netflix password is losing their mind over Season 2. But why is everyone so obsessed with a show that's basically the Goonies meet Fox Mulder? Some may pin it on nostalgia.
Remember Ghostbusters? Oh, I remember.
But I'm going to argue it has a lot to do with toys. Whether it's kids becoming the rulers of a nation by engaging in literal warfare, or an animated baby in a suit doing espionage, TV and movies about powerful children tend to age them up in order to demonstrate their abilities rather than taking seriously the potential of childhood. Childhood is either something to be overcome or just comic juxtaposition against their adult roles. What makes Stranger Things unique is that the kids win by being kids, rather than by growing up or pretending to be adults. By paying attention to the way Stranger Things inverts that convention and shows the inherent power of children, we can perhaps better understand why the series resonates so much for millennials. Being a kid at heart doesn't mean you're regressing. Sometimes it means being a total badass. Welcome to this Wisecrack edition on Stranger Things. And as always, spoilers ahead. If you need to get caught up, here's a quick rundown on the first season. A decade before the start of the show, a secret government-funded experiment kidnaps a girl, names her Levin, and makes her use her psychic powers to spy on the Soviets, and, whoops, summon a demon hellbeast from another dimension. This beast attacks a boy named Will and brings him back to its really depressing home dimension, which is just like Earth except the atmosphere is full of Kleenex pieces and everything is kind of damp. Will's three best friends, Dustin, Lucas, and Mike, set out on a quest to find him. Once Eleven escapes her creepy fake dad, she joins the junior rescue crew, and the rest, as they say, is 8 hours of quality television. 80s and 90s kid nostalgia certainly helped give rise to the popularity of the show, but that nostalgia extends far beyond the reach of Netflix. We also see a certain longing for the past in the current millennial obsession with toys. Witness the insane popularity of Funko Pop figurines, hoverboards, and subscription boxes filled with everything from Star Wars pillows to Batman-themed ramen bowls. Toys as a symbol express lightheartedness and innocence, but they're also an important means for rational and emotional connection. Toddlers learn about the world through their toys. Children use toys to share or fight with friends and to act out the possibilities of the future. Despite this, many popular depictions of toys trivialize their role, label them as immature, and their popularity has given rise to dozens of really think pieces on how millennials need to grow up. Stranger Things takes toys seriously. They're not only an essential part of the storyline, they're the foundation on which the rest of the story is built. The quintessential example of this is the way that the language of Dungeons & Dragons is used to make sense of events, both for our plucky gang of four and for the viewers themselves.
We were thinking of more of an evil dimension, like the Veil of Shadows.
When we first meet the boys in episode 1, they're in Mike's basement playing D&D. The Demogorgon monster is first shown as a figurine in their campaign, and so when they meet the interdimensional monster later on, they talk about it in terms of a monster they are familiar with.
Do you seriously want to fight the Demogorgon with your wrist rocket? That's like R2-D2 going to fight Darth Vader.
The same is true of the alternate dimension the monster hails from. As Eleven tries to explain what this place is, nobody understands until she takes the campaign board and flips it upside down to represent an alternate and parallel side to our own reality. Since those concepts are fundamental to making sense of the paranormal element in the boys' lives, they're also fundamental to the viewer. We really have no way to understand or express the Upside Down or the Demogorgon except through the language of D&D. That board and that figurine shape the mythology for the entire series. We see this same kind of language framing in Dustin's constant references to comic books and Star Wars.
So do you think Eleven was born with her powers like the X-Men, or do you think she acquired them like Green Lantern?
To him, Eleven is one of the X-Men, and the Chief is Lando Calrissian when the boys think he's setting them up.
It's not a trap. Why would the Chief set us up? Nancy, maybe, but the Chief?
Lando Calrissian.
Would you shut up about Lando?
Dustin knows that Jean Grey has telekinesis, so Eleven's similar powers don't seem impossible. His relationship to games and toys and cartoons gives him and the other children the ability to understand. It's powerful.
What if this is Hawkins and this is where Will is?
In contrast, Joyce sees evidence of the paranormal, and it pretty much destroys her, because she has no way to communicate this knowledge to the other adults, or even herself.
It's after him! He's in danger! We have to find him!
Everyone thinks she's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, because they simply don't have the right frame of reference to make sense of the events. Except for Mr. Clark. His connection to childhood toys and games makes him an understanding ally who entertains the idea of an upside down well before the other adults.
You know the Little Shadows?
Echo of the material plane where necrotic and shadow magic.
Yeah, exactly.
The significance of toys goes beyond just making sense of the ego-snarfing demigoddess in the basement. On one level, Stranger Things gives credibility to toys by showing that they have the potential to be powerful. When Lucas suggests bringing his wrist rocket on their adventures, even his friends make fun of him.
You're gonna take out the Demogorgon with a slingshot?
And it's true that, in the end, the wrist rocket gets literally beaten to the punch by Levin's psychic attack on the Demogorgon. This may seem like it detracts from our argument, but the mere fact that the wrist rocket was part of the fight shows that it can't be easily dismissed. Successfully or not, that slingshot, that toy, fought a monster from another dimension. In the world of Stranger Things, toys become objects of great utility. Nancy's costume chest provides Eleven the ability to move around comfortably in public. She can go to school, meet adults, and navigate the world more easily after she plays dress up. Without the newfound confidence provided by the dress and the blonde wig, Eleven wouldn't have found Will on the Heathkit radio or saved Mike from the class bullies. She has superpowers, but a dress-up bin did something that ESP couldn't. We can also see the utility of toys in Will's home away from home, Castle Byers. It's a kid's fort built in the backyard, but it probably saves his life when he's in the Upside Down. Not only does it shelter him from the Demogorgon, at least for a little while, it's also somewhat implied that the sense of familiarity and comfort provided by the fort helps to keep him alive in the toxic atmosphere. Perhaps one of the most obvious examples is the scene where Joyce and Eleven pull together a makeshift sensory deprivation tank so that our girl Elle can go dimension hopping. They go to a school and fill up a kiddie pool that was once used to bob for apples. This scenario, despite the participation of the adults, is so laden with kid-fueled ingenuity that it's almost over the top. But it's that kiddie pool that makes it possible for Eleven to discover Barb's body. Sometimes the role of toys in the show is a little less blatant. You might have forgotten the scenes where Eleven practices her powers on the Millennium Falcon figurine, or when Will gets an Atari for Christmas at the end of the first season.
It's definitely an Atari.
And a whaty?
The green present, it's an Atari.
By making toys a constant presence in the show, Stranger Things emphasizes their omnipresence and importance in the lives of children. The significance of toys isn't always limited to the kids either. There are also a few occasions where toys are important tools for teens and adults. Joyce's alphabet light display looks an awful lot like a Ouija board. Nancy and Jonathan basically recreate Home Alone to catch a monster, and top it off with a smiley face yo-yo. Jonathan's very fancy camera is referred to as his toy.
Just have to take away his toy.
No, please, not the camera.
And it's key to documenting the existence of the Demogorgon by first producing another toy, a puzzle. These examples all point to the same idea. The times when the teens and adults are most successful at fighting the enemy or understanding the world are when they adopt the conventions of kids. This isn't just children having power, it's the power of childhood itself. We can see an interesting presentation of this idea in the case of the walkie-talkies and the compasses used in the show. Radios and compasses are not inherently toys. They're primarily used for adults for distinctly untoy-like purposes. But in Stranger Things, they are toys, used by the boys as a form of play prior to taking on their strategic roles. The walkie-talkies are vital for communication during the search for Will, and the magnetic misdirection of the compasses leads the gang to the conclusion that the portal is inside the Department of Energy facility. But we don't see the adults using them to similar effect. The police have radios, but they never hold the same kind of power or usefulness as the toy radios belonging to the kids. So, Stranger Things takes toys seriously because it takes childhood itself seriously. The kids don't save the day despite being kids, they save the day because they were kids. This doesn't mean that everyone loving the show wishes they were actually 10 years old again. I wouldn't deal with Troy and his ilk for all the fun dips in the world. But Stranger Things fights back against the idea that being a kid or liking toys is some sort of deficiency. There isn't just nostalgia in remembering childhood, there's power too. So what does it mean to give toys this kind of influence? By empowering childhood, is Stranger Things fanning the flames of our nostalgia-driven culture? Is it fighting against that by making childhood into something more than an ironic t-shirt? Either way, we're happy to keep watching Season 2. Pass the Eggos, and thanks for watching, guys. Peace out. And for dinner, you'll probably want something a little more substantial, but don't worry, Blue Apron's got you covered. Seriously guys, Blue Apron is offering $30 off to the first 150 Wisecrack fans who sign up from this video. Be sure you do it with the link at the end of this video or in the description below. Blue Apron delivers ingredients that look and taste amazing. And while I may still only have the cooking skills of a college freshman, our team had no problem following the easy directions with all the pre-measured ingredients to cook a delicious meal. We made pizza with our wine bottle rolling pin, and mamma mia. And this month, Blue Apron has more delicious meals on tap, including seared steaks and mashed potatoes and soy-marinated chicken tenders. If you love food and want a simple way to cook great meals at home, check out Blue Apron. They deliver farm-fresh ingredients with delicious recipes all in a refrigerated box, so ingredients stay fresh even if you're not home when they arrive. And you can skip or cancel service at any time. So if you're looking to expand your cooking repertoire and hate going to the grocery store as much as I do, or just love the idea of fresh ingredients delivered to your door, click here to check out Blue Apron or at the link in the description below. And remember, the first 150 Wisecrack fans to sign up get $30 off their first purchase. Thanks to Blue Apron for sponsoring this video, and I'm getting pretty hungry, guys, so I'm gonna peace out. Catch y'all next time. Peace.